Hello guys, welcome back or welcome if you're new. It's Christian from Emotions in Wine. So today, as you've seen from the title, a different corner, a talk but on sensitive topics that I felt to talk about. If you follow us, you know that we treat with the utmost respect the farmers, because remember, winemakers, wineries, they are farmers first of all. Of course, a different level from the farmer of vegetables and fruit, but still farmers, still heritage to every one of us on the planet. So they need to have more respect even than a production company of manufacture things. And they have to deal with nature, with the troubles, with the weather. So remember, it's a job almost 365 days of the year. So even if you don't appreciate or you don't like, you don't agree with the price issue, we will talk about this, that is the main topic, but you need still to understand what is behind. With my experience, I'm trying to teach a lot of things. Now I want to teach a bit what is behind. I never worked in a winery, but I did all the other sides between winery and F&B, in the F&B, so I know a bit well. I had my argues even about pricing with some wineries in the old days. That is part of the job, part of the discussion, but then we need to understand the things. Then there are the exceptions, exaggerated, and we will mention about that later. So too many are trying to attract attention lately, I see, online, let's say, and forgetting what is the respect. So this is something that really hurt me. That's why I wanted to make my point, and I hope that more and more people, I know the audience is still small, but I hope that more can see what I'm saying and understand, try to understand at least. If you follow us, you also know that we don't like to give ratings, still for the point of respect. Of course, they need the ratings in the market because it's a guidance. But for me, still, because if the rating is not high enough, of course, that is a sort of negative. So that's why I'm avoiding. I'm trying to be always kind in the comments, just showing what I like more and what less. That for me is the most correct approach. So seeing others is not making me happy at all. The pricing, as I hinted, is the key point because I see more and more this talk. Guys, remember, there was COVID. This decade is the toughest ever. Besides economic situations, the inflation was crazy. COVID before, people closed with the restaurants for ages, bankrupted. Even the wineries, because the online sales were not that crazy in those days yet. And anyway, with everything stuck, many people losing jobs or not making money, everything slowed down. I know how many had to dump the stocks, just make a bit of cash to pay the bills, to run the winery or to run the business. So this is not gone. Things take time. Business is not that easy. Some are still facing the consequences of the investments, of the things they had to pay delayed, and so on. And economy, as I said, is not great. There are many other issues, so even today, they need to catch up. Of course, pricing need to be reasonable. So you need to consider first more commercial or more boutique concept, the quantities, how is the job that they have to do. So is also mechanical or is all handmade, long aging process, winemaking, etc. Costly also the production besides the quality of the product. So all matters. In some cases, of course, they may exaggerate, but remember, the market is fixing itself. So the price can go up until someone is willing to buy. This is in everything. So even complaining about, you see about California now is a hot topic, that they went too high and now they are closing, they are cutting vineyards and they are I don't know exactly if they are reducing the prices yet or just making discounts, but market in the end is fixing itself. It's a sad situation because for sure many exaggerated, but in the long term there is a fix. This is the free market. Of course, we have the right to complain and to talk about it. It's fair enough. Even in other situations, there is this issue. But remember what happened, especially in recent years. So that is always something you need to keep in mind, not just say it's too much without thinking what is behind it. Second, there is the exclusivity point. French are the master in that. So small quantities, historical products, very prestigious. So of course they cost. Are they worth the price? Almost never. As I repeat in many videos, we are trying always to propose you different things. Less expensive, much better value for money, QPR. That is the key point. But you cannot even blame those big brands for the prices they have. Of course, if you take quality-wise, you will find for sure something much cheaper for the same level. And not many options probably for the very top Bordeaux or Burgundy, things like that. But you can still. Less famous for sure cost less. The fame has a price. Then also about correctness. That is something I was discussing in the past, and I was disagreeing with some winemakers. If the vintage is less good, the price should go down, not just every year increase, even if there is a matter of the inflation, costs of everything. But still, French in this are the masters. They teach everybody because they are much fairer, at least to keep the prices, if not drop a bit, when there is a bad vintage, when there is the great vintage, of course, the increase. So on this, the utmost respect to the French, how they behave. But anyway, you can find there is a huge level of quality nowadays, as we repeat in many videos, everywhere, even in East Europe, in emerging countries in the world, besides Europe. So you have many options. Of course, Burgundy is Burgundy. We always say Champagne is Champagne. We always repeat because the wonderful other traditional method that you can drink can never compete with the best champagne because of the terroir. But options are many. So even on the pricing, you need to influence the market. If less people buy the fancy brand, even those prices will have to come down. That is how the market regulates. So this is why I don't want to talk about the usual suspects. I prefer to do, but for me it's a problem because of course I have less audience. Because if I talk often about Burgundy, Bordeaux, Brunello, Barolo, and California, or okay, we don't talk about New World, but for sure I can have more audience. But I want to keep my style in what I say, how I try to teach, I try to transmit, and what I talk about. So value for money is always relevant for us, always. So help us, support us after what I explained you, if you can understand even more. Like, subscribe, share with your wine friends. Help us as much as possible to grow because it's not easy also for us. So far it's only a cost. I want to conclude with the restaurant section, which is very relevant. I work always strictly with restaurants or also into, so I know pretty well, and I work in different countries, so I know well different continents, so I know well about the pricing. Remember, besides what I said before about COVID, etc., the restaurant is not full every day. The cost, besides inflation, etc., but also the staff and everything, if you, especially if you do more quality, you have to pay more the staff, more professional managers, sommelier, chefs, and everything. So it's not, and it's also tough to find good stuff. So even more, you need to pay more. So there are many aspects. Then you have the wastage without entering too much in details. So you cannot take the price you see online or in the wine shop and pretend that the restaurant is charging you just a bit more. And remember, the restaurant is not feeding you and that's it. The revenue of the restaurant is made by the full package. Only food, they don't make enough. Food and alcohol, more than water or other things, even if the margins there, of course, are higher because it's cheap product. But the alcohol is bringing up the revenue. Remember this. It's very important for every restaurant to make profitability, to sell good wine, cocktails, whatever. So they need to mark. Of course, some exaggerate, indeed, especially on medium high level, because on the entry is normal. The cheap stuff you mark more. Even here, what I said before, pick the other restaurant, the one that is a bit more fair. So based on your taste and the full experience. But the more they give you, the more they have the right to ask. Then I always seen even Michelin star restaurants where you have a very honest markup on, let's say, the medium range, things that cost, I'm talking about euro prices, let's say 50 euros. And that is a plus, of course, which the customers appreciate. But in general, we need to remember that, especially the starting point, depending on the country, with VAT, this and that, there is a minimum level that they need to target to make some money. I'm always trying to explain them not to go too high when I have the chance to talk to them in my job, because if you want to sell more, you need to be more competitive. That is the rule. But keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. Even if you go there, it's full. Remember that there are those snowy days, the summery days, the holiday days. There are the Mondays and Tuesdays. So there is a lot of things to keep in mind. So I hope I had to give a bit more clarity, especially on the pricing issue. Also some other things that, as I said, I don't like to see left and right. Make your analysis, make your conclusions, support who is trying to teach, to help, to give good tips, and see you next time. Salute!